All right, so this is instructions for your Dr. Seuss book, some reminders from the rubric and from the instruction sheet that you already should have read. All right, remember that the first step that you have to take on the Dr. Seuss Battle Book is that you've got to take research notes and you've got to create a bibliography. That means you're going to have your minimum sources are from the textbook, from 2 additional book sources, and 1 internet site. You're certainly able to go beyond those. So for example, if you decide to look at 4 internet websites and 2 books and your textbook, then that's certainly okay as well. That just needs to be reflected in the bibliography. So for a level 3 or a 4, which most of you should be aiming for, everybody should, you need to make sure that your notes from each of those sources have more detail than the textbook and the notes from class. Your purpose of doing research is to get more information, not the same information as you already have. So if you have a book source and you have like 5 bullet points from the book source, that's not going to be getting you to the level 3 or 4. There's no specific limit of number of bullets or anything like that, but when I look at your notes, I'm going to ask myself, does that look like they took some good notes, there's good detail from it, and not just vague garbage? No errors in the bibliography. There's a typo on the instruction sheet that I handed to you that says you can get a level 4 with an error or 2 on your bibliography. That's just a silly typo. No errors on the bibliography. Of course, you can revise that, but I'll give you feedback on that. And of course, it needs to be separated by source and the power notes for the level 4, which most of you began doing anyway. Step 2, the battle report, or it's called the summary on the rubric. Minimum information means this is the stuff that at the very minimum you actually have to have. The names and details about the leaders, the events during the actual battle, you know, maybe there was a maneuver or a famous quote. Those are just examples. Relevant statistics, these include you know, how many people were fighting in it, which particular type of ships were in it, how many people, maybe how many casualties there were, or anything of that nature. How many days it lasted. The immediate results of the battle mean who won. Who won? How much? What happened to the other side? Did the Japanese or the Americans or the Germans or the Italians, did they retreat afterwards or did they advance? These are what's called immediate results of the battle. Then the next is the impact of the battle on the wider war. So after this battle was done, what impact did that have on the wider war? So, you know, for example, D-Day was a major shift in the entire World War II. Okay, so what sort of impact did yours have? To get level 3 or 4, it needs to be 2 full pages long. Okay, and this doesn't mean changing the margins or getting a size 14 font because that's easier. You know, Courier New, I always remember from Word in college. Courier New is really wide, so it took up, you know, it could make a 12-page paper 14. I'd prefer to keep this just very consistent. So just use whatever the regular font is on your, if it's Word, then it's going to be like Times New Roman size 12. Okay? Okay, pardon the interruption. So it's 2 full pages long. You can double space it. But I don't want you messing with the margins or making gigantic font. If it is that way, I'll just hand it back to you and say, well, you get a 0 for now until you do. So if you have any questions of that, make sure you double check with me. If you want a level 4, you've got to include your own personal judgment. Okay, this means I need to see you in your writing. That means you need to critique maybe specific parts of the battle or decisions that leaders made. Okay, this becomes really easy in some things like Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right? If you give some sort of nuanced, well thought out opinion, you're going to get a level 4 about whether or not we should have dropped the bomb. You must have this done in order for me to grade your final. Some people have already begun the final draft, which is not advised, because if you don't do the report, you're not going to get a grade on the final. So this is a requirement. Each of these steps are a requirement. Plagiarism, which is a major issue in the freshman classes. Plagiarism on this will result in a 0 for your entire project. Plagiarism is very easy to detect as a teacher. So let me just suggest that you don't do it. Remember, use your own sentences, use your own ideas. You read your sources not to find a way to organize your paper, but you read your sources to gather information. Once you're done with your notes, you should have a good idea about your battle, and you should start writing your paper without your notes in front of you until you need to reference them for some specifics or statistics. If you don't know what a word means, don't put it on your report, because I'll ask you. Step 3, the final step. The final draft is the battle book itself. The requirements: you must have a character and action key where you show me what your story means along with a very brief summary of your story. This is just a cheat sheet for me in your allegory. A good allegory is about, SpongeBob or some other characters, and it doesn't say anything about World War II or bullets or amphibious invasions. It's like a code. You're telling me the story that isn't on the surface about your battle, but really underneath it is. It's called an allegory. So you have to give me the answer key. You have to give me a way for me to figure out how many connections you have between SpongeBob SquarePants and the D-Day invasion. Okay? I have shared with you on your Google Docs a template for this that will help. It must be 12 pages long. This doesn't count the cover, so don't. You're going to use 13 pieces of paper if you print it out, or there'll be 13 slides if you use Google Presentation. Must be 12 pages long. Now that doesn't mean you're going to have to. There's not going to be writing the entire page. The requirement is that there's one sentence and one rhyme per page. Typically, what I suggest is 2 very short sentences that are about the same length, that end with a very simple word that rhymes with each other. Before you knew it, there was one. SpongeBob SquarePants like to have fun, right? You see how one and fun are very simple words to rhyme. Don't get into multi-syllable words, because then it's really hard. And don't use the word orange, because frankly, I don't think that you can rhyme orange with anything. So don't use it to end your sentence. That's the easiest way to do this rhyme thing. 2 short sentences on each page. The last word is a really short word that rhymes. If you're having troubles, I'm available for your help. 1 picture per page is the minimum. Okay? So if you want level 3 or 4, the number of connections between your battle and your story are the difference in the complexity of your allegory. And that's how I look at it. If you've only got 5 connections, you're going to get a level 3. And then if you've got 10 connections between your battle and your allegory, your SpongeBob SquarePants story, then you're going to be able to be eligible for level 4. Okay? So it gets pretty objective as far as how you get your grade. And that, of course, will be reflected in your key. So, examples of allegory plots, here they are. Your favorite movie plot, your favorite TV show, your favorite comic strip or comic book. I've had people turn in, Garfield the cat book about, Iwo Jima, which is a little weird, but it works. I'm sorry, it wasn't about Iwo Jima. It was him and, who was that? Pluto? Odie, all right. Him and Odie were, fighting, trying to get food, right? So on the surface, it was about Garfield the cat and Odie, and in reality, it was an allegory for Iwo Jima. Favorite, maybe it's you and your friends. Some people have taken pictures of themselves and their friends doing particular things and put them on a Google presentation. Fictional characters that you make up, random characters like animals that can speak or act, anything else that you could think of. If you're having problems just coming up with an idea, I'm telling you, just pick a plot. Whatever it is that you know really well will make it an easy activity for you. So examples of final draft formats: some people make physical books. Some people most people use Google presentations and share. You don't get a better grade if you use up, all of your ink cartridge at home, right? We can't print in color. The teachers can't unless we pay for stuff in the library. So the librarians will make you pay if you. That doesn't make a difference to me. If you've got a file and you've got pictures on it, just email it to me so you can save a tree and save money, because that doesn't matter. Some people have made a video, actually, so it turns into a Dr. Seuss Battle video instead of a book. I'm fine with that. You can check out flip cameras from the library. They have a USB connection. It's very easy to use. If you do that, you can let me know. Some people use their iPods or cell phones. Any other approved format. If you're like, hey, I'm going to, do an online comic or something like that, that's fine. Just sort of let me know, and I'll help you get it figured out. So here's a picture of somebody using Google Presentation. Here's a couple examples of formats of the actual physical books that they made. Okay, so the big important thing for you to know is that how well it's put together isn't as important to me as the content and the connections between your allegory. Remember, that's what it's about. It's not about, arts and crafts you're really good at or bad at. Okay?